Hello. Welcome to my channel, friends. My name is Lynn, and today I thought what I would do is adapt this really fun mystery craft along card. It was originally led by Meg, who showed us how to. She wrote the rules, but she was actually sick that episode, so I actually read the rules. But really, it was Meg's idea to show us how to make this accordion pop-up card. Now, I'm adapting it to be exactly A2 in size because her original card is slightly taller than A2. And then it also required a stretch that is longer than 11 inches. So if you work with A4 papers, then you're fine, or 12 by 12 papers, then you're fine. But if you typically use US letter, then you can't get a stretch that is 11 and a quarter unless you glue two pieces together. And this is already a really bulky card. So I've got my card base, and then this piece here is 6.5 wide by 5.5 tall, and it's folded in half at 3.25 along that 6.5 inch edge. And I chose that measurement so that I can efficiently cut down my pattern papers. Now this piece here, it measures, instead of 11.25, it measures 7.5 by 2 inches tall, and I just scored every 1.25 inch. So this is 7.5, and it scored every 1.25 inch. So at 1.25, 2.5, 3.75, 5 inches, and then 6.25. So this is what you'll end up with if you then fold on those score lines: valley, mountain, valley, mountain, valley. So just alternate your mountains and your valleys, and this is what you'll get. Now, if you have a shorter scoreboard, you can score at 1.25, 2.5, and then 3.75, and then flip it around 180 degrees, and then just score 1.25 and 2.5, and you'll get the same thing. So everything should fold, and you'll have 6 sections that are the same size. So I'm going to start by cutting down some pattern papers to decorate the inside, because really the inside is the star of this card. It's got so much dimension, and I definitely recommend, if you are to make this, use lighter weight cardstocks or paper, because there's so many layers once this is all folded, especially at the bottom where that accordion piece is. So in the original mystery craft along, Meg showed us how to add several mats and layers. I'm gonna skip some of them because she had us double matting a lot of these, and instead I'm just going to use pattern paper. So here's that inside piece. So this measures again 6.5, and we score at 3.25, and it's 5.5 tall. Now what I want to do is I'm going to measure up from the bottom 2 inches, and I want to do that on both sides. 2 inches from the bottom, and I want to put that pencil mark on both sides. So right now my bottom edge is the left-hand edge, so I'm just going to measure 2 inches. So now I've got my 2 pencil marks. How I arrived at 2 inches, if you want to adapt this, because feel free to kind of make this so that it fits your aesthetic. But basically that 2-inch mark is because that's the height of this accordion piece. It's going to be flush with that pencil mark. And so if you wanted that accordion piece to be taller or shorter, you would just adjust this accordingly. Now what I'm going to do is I'm lining up on my cutting edge the score line at the middle of this little mini card here. And then my pencil mark is also on the cutting track. And I will just cut this triangle off. So from the center where the score line is to my pencil mark at the side, I'm going to cut, and I'll do that on the other side as well. So we're going to end up with something that is sort of like the shape of a house almost. That's how we were describing it during Mystery Craft Along. So what is Mystery Craft Along? It's when I invite a friend of mine to come up with a project that we're going to make. She doesn't tell anything to anyone except for whoever volunteers to test her instructions, because The crafter or designer who leads Mystery Craft Along gives us a cutting list, a supply list, and then during the live stream, we are read step-by-step clues by the designer, and we just follow along blindly and just hope that at the end we made the right thing. So it's a lot of fun. It's not about creating the most beautiful thing ever. It's just part of the fun of the mystery of everything, taking guesses as to what we're doing. And the live stream's really fun. I have for folks who don't know, I have a live stream show every Saturday at 2 p.m. And I invite some of my friends to craft with me on screen. So Mystery Craft Along is really fun because you can kind of pick who you would like to follow, but they don't know what we're making either. So, and often I'm just as in the dark as anyone else. So I'm going to show you and talk a little bit more about how to get this pattern paper cut perfectly so that you have the perfect border all the way around. So I start off by cutting my 6x6 pattern paper to 5¼ tall by 3 inches. So I'm just going to start with a 3-inch wide panel cut to 5¼ tall. And then what I do is I put it onto this card, and I'm looking to have equal margins on the left, bottom, and right. And then along the diagonal, I need to replicate that angle. So what I look for is I'm just looking to find out where do I need to start my cut so that along that diagonal edge, it has that same margin where the same amount of craft color cardstock is visible as I can see it from compared to that right hand edge of this panel, for example. So that's what I'm looking to achieve, is just where do I need to start that cut so that it has the same margin all the way around. And then I'm going to line up my 2 pencil marks on my cutting track and then cut that angle. Now, sometimes with a pattern paper, especially a dark one, it can be kind of hard. So if you want, you could use maybe a white gel pen. If your pattern paper is dark or it has some areas and it just happens that your pencil mark lands on a dark spot, you can always use like a white gel pen. And hopefully that becomes a little bit more visible and you can see it better so that you can line it up in your cutting track. And there you have the perfect mat. Now, I found that that worked better than trying to figure out the dimensions with math. So sometimes, for me, I just find it easier to just measure something to fit, because some angles might not have been perfect at the time that I cut the base of this, the craft portion. And so if you're just measuring to fit, then it's going to be perfect every time, or at least perfect enough. So now we need to create this pop-up spring mechanism so that the craft section pops out from the card base. So this is going to have so much dimension, because not only is there going to be that accordion that pops out, there's that the base that it's attached to also pops out. So this bit of cardstock just measures 2 inches wide by 1 inch tall, and along the 2-inch edge, I scored it at every 1/2 inch. So depending on where you place this little spring mechanism, it's actually going to determine how much it can pop out. So if you put it more towards the edge of this house piece, then it might not pop out quite as much. If you put it more towards the center, then it might pop out a little bit more. Wherever you plan to attach it, you do want to make sure that it's equal on both sides so that it's nice and symmetric. So I just measured about 1.5 inches from the center of this house piece, and I glued my spring mechanism on the outside of that 1.5 inches. So between 1.5 inches and 1 inch or 1.5 inches and 2 inches, that's where I put my spring mechanism. And so before I start adding anything to the inside of my card, I do want to get a little bit of a start on decorating the outside of my card so that it's nice and flat still, and I can burnish if I need to. And so I'm just going to cut a couple panels. So I've got some craft color cardstock and another lovely pattern paper. And my craft card is very porous and it just drinks liquid adhesive. So I do tend to prefer using a liquid adhesive as opposed to a tape runner on my craft card, because I have found that over time, if I glue something with just double-sided, like a tape runner, it craft card sometimes just falls apart on me. So I've always tended to use liquid adhesive. Okay, now I can start attaching things to the inside. Now on that opposite end of the spring mechanism, I will glue that down first to one side, and I just tuck this folded piece, the folded house piece, right into the middle of my card, making sure that I can fold it down flatly. And that's how I attach anything that has to pop up and still fold down flat. I like to adhere it when it's folded, because that ensures that it will actually fold later. If I try to adhere this when it's popped out in its dimensional form, I'm kind of 50-50 on whether that can eventually fold flat again. That's just me as a crafter. So whatever method works best for you, do that. But I find it easiest to glue one edge down and then fold everything down flat and glue the other side on top. So I'm gonna decorate this accordion piece. So part of why how I arrived at this measurement, 1¼ inch by 2 inches tall, is this measurement of each section. And that way each of my pattern paper pieces can be 1 inch wide by 1¾ inch tall, which I knew I would be able to get from my 6x6 pattern paper. And in fact, it's just a bit of scrap left over from the front of the card. This is the back of the back pattern of that same piece. So again, just, a lot of these sizes I arrive at so that they become efficient cuts. Now this isn't a no waste card. It's just a minimal waste card. So I'm going to do the same thing on one panel. I'm going to apply adhesive. I'm going to glue it to my house piece, making it flush to the right and to the bottom. And then I'm going to burnish this all well, fold everything down flat, put adhesive just on that exposed panel, and then close my card down flat on top of it. Now, if you are using liquid adhesive like I am, do give it a moment to grab and before you exercise it too much. But once it's open, look at that dimension. So that's how that looks once everything is attached. So you can kind of see how far forward everything really springs open. Now when it all folds flat, there's a lot of layers of cardstock there, because we've got the solid color cardstock and then we've got some pattern paper on top of that. So this is not an easy mailer. This is going to cost a lot extra, or maybe not a lot extra, maybe just I think it might be over 2 ounces even. So you might need like a 3-ounce stamp if they have those. Okay, so now one thing that we didn't do during Mystery Craft Along is I added this extra little pop-up mechanism, and I'm just cutting some craft color cardstock. This is 1/2 inch by, it ultimately ends up being 3 inches. I'm gonna score at 3/4 inch, 1.5, and then 2 1/4. So you can make this little box here. So then you can just cut that off at 3 inches and form that little box, or it's actually going to be a diamond. And then cut yourself 2 pieces that are 1.5 wide by 1/2 inch tall. And we're going to need to attach those. So if you have your little box here, that's going to be those 2 front pieces. That's where you want to put glue. So you want to put glue on your middle two sections and then attach this folded piece, which is, I think I cut it a little bit off, but it should be just 1.5 inches scored in half at 3/4 of an inch. And the height of this, kind of arbitrary, but I chose 1/2 inch. So you're gonna end up with something that looks a little bit like this, and like this here. And this is what we're going to use to attach some ephemera pieces to be the focal image on the inside of the card. And that just, the reason why this has so many folds is just so that when you attach something to the very ends, it will open up more flatly and feel a little bit more forward facing. And so to attach this, again, I just have glue on one of those tabs. This was from that one of the original pieces from that square or that diamond that we cut. And then I'm gonna put adhesive just on one of the 3/4 inch sections and fold my card down closed. Just now, when you attach this, anytime you attach something into the middle of a card, you want to make sure that you're never attaching it over your score line so that your card can still open nice and wide. And then you can decorate. So you can find a couple pieces of ephemera. Just make sure that when you close the card, it stays inside of your card. You also don't want it to be below that accordion piece at the bottom so that it can really go where it needs to go when this folds down flat again. And so there's lots of places that you can attach pop-up stands if you want. And what I'm going to do is off camera decorate the front and the inside. And I'll show you the final card here. So here's how the front of my card turned out. The Happy Valentine's Day sentiment is from the Stamp of the Month by Not Too Shabby. I picked a few ephemera pieces to collage up. I did add a little bit of low profile foam and a little bit of 3D glue gel. I could not help myself. I know this card does not need to be any thicker than it already is on the inside, but I do like the look of just that little bit of dimension. So here, when you open it up, here's how that looks. Now, what I did end up doing was I did add a couple of extra pop-up stands. And so these pieces here on the side, I added, they are the same as that first pop-up mechanism that we cut. So they measure 1/2 inch tall by 3 inches long, and you score every 3/4 of an inch. And the reason why I added them is because it helps to pull the ephemera back towards the that house piece a little bit, so it opens it up more widely. So you can see how that works there. And then when you attach it, what you do is you attach it to the fold that's right here. So one end of that 3-inch strip goes right into that fold. And then now this pulls it back because it's it helps to open this up more. Whereas if you look at this card where I don't have that, these Yetis, they tend to kind of stay like that, where they're very close to each other. And if you really want to see them, they're flexible, so you can definitely kind of spread them, move them out a little wider apart to see them. But rather than have the card recipient do that, I wanted to add an extra pop-up piece so that it's attached to the back, and then it pulls it back more. And you could play with the dimensions of this piece to see if you can make it a little bit less visible, but that's what I ended up doing. I just cut it to be the same. Now, technically, you can actually glue the ephemera to one of those sections, because this section here, it never really needs to fold. if that was totally glued down, it would be totally fine and operate just fine. So you can actually glue your ephemera to that piece. I'm gonna leave it though. It just helps to make it a little bit more springy, but you can fold that down and it would definitely open up nice and widely. So I love this card mechanism. I feel like it's definitely going to be one that I don't know. It kind of I think makes somebody feel really special when they get a card like this, and it's a great card for the holidays too. If you want to make something like this for Christmas, definitely going to be mantle worthy kind of card. So I had a lot of fun adapting this for A2. It's not going to be an easy mailer for sure, but I think especially for Valentine's, for somebody you love, I think it's really great to make them a little something extra special. So maybe something for your partner. You don't have to send it in the mail. You can just hand it to them and you don't have to worry about postage at all. I think I might actually send this card to either my mom or my mother-in-law because I think it'll be really fun for them to get a nice special card like this. Now, there isn't room to actually write a message on the inside. I was thinking you could maybe die cut a heart and put it on one of the back panels, or you could just flip to the back and write your message on the back of the card. So again, if you want to check out MCA, it's available in replay and you'll see that card's dimensions. But otherwise, I hope this one has been useful. Thanks so much for checking out my video today. I'll leave links to everything in the description box below if you want to check out this month's Paper Pad Club or the Stamp of the Month Club or the Box of the Month Club. Thanks again, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.